I just dropped almost $5,000 on a Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long retreat. And overall, I would give it So I spent 7 days inside it, so you know exactly what you're getting before you invest a single dollar. Look, over the past 15 years, I've invested well over $100,000 in countless coaching programs and masterminds and events. And so in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what that week-long retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza delivers, what it entails, what it doesn't, what surprised me, and who should actually consider joining. So stick around until then, because those details alone could save you either $5,000 or tons of nerves in the future because of all the amazing experiences you're gonna have. All right, so here's how this works. I'm going to show you exactly what you get, what it costs, and most importantly, whether it's actually worth your money. So let's dive right in. Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of the known voices when it comes to meditation, how it changes your life, the impact it has, and offering that to a broader and wider audience, right? So the week-long retreat is designed to literally rewire the nervous system. And I'd always wanted to join it. It's been my dream since probably like 10 years to join it, to do it. And this time they even provided like a discount. And so I was like, all right, okay, I'll do it. And so I decided to join the week-long retreat in Washington, D.C. I know, out of all the places, whenever I told people I went for a meditation retreat and they asked me where, and I said Washington, D.C., they were so surprised, right? But turns out it was exactly the right decision. What were my expectations initially? Well, I expected to meditate a lot. I didn't know what time it would start every day. I didn't know, is there gonna be like, what kind of food is there gonna be? How well are we gonna be fed? You know, if you are in the US, then food can oftentimes be very, very questionable, right? And when I inquired with the team, I only got responses about like, well, there's going to be vegetarian and vegan options, which was not really what I asked. I asked whether there's going to be healthy choices and so on, but I didn't get that information. And I decided to just leave it up to the unknown, which is going to be a theme later on. Now, the initial impressions were that there was so much unknown. Like, you pay on average for this retreat $2,500 plus hotel costs, right? And I decided to stay at the hotel. I prefer to stay at the hotels that are where the events are at, because I don't have to run around the whole day with my backpack. I can just go quickly up to my room if I want to. And it's just so much more convenient, even though it's sometimes more expensive. But I've made the experience that it typically pays off. And I was so happy because this was a 7-day retreat. And if I had to commute, even walk from another hotel, I would have had to bring things with me and so on. It would have just been too much. Like, mind you, these are like about 1,800 people that take part in this. So you have hotels of a certain size. You walk, like I walked every day more than 10,000 steps on a meditation retreat. And that was just by like walking to the rooms, a little bit outside, taking a walk. So like not really like any excessive exercise, right? So didn't know much about the program, didn't know much about what to expect, but always kind of knew, hey, I needed that kind of rewiring, and it would be interesting to expose myself to that environment. Now, leading up to the event, as already mentioned, I inquired with the customer support and I did not get any response, except for once from the research team when I reached out to them and I asked them, and then they pushed it on to customer support. And till today, whenever I reached out to customer support, I haven't gotten any response. So I would say that's a downside for me, especially at like a price point at that level. The other thing that I did is go get snacks before the event, because I had no idea what kind of food awaits me. And I wanted to make sure that I eat relatively healthy, right? So I went to Whole Foods. I got over $100 in snacks. And luckily in the end, I didn't end up needing some of those because we got food and the options were pretty okay. Some of the snacks and some of the days were just like muffins and, sweet stuff. But there were definitely options and you would not have to worry about getting hungry, no matter what kind of diet you follow, right? So there were plenty of like vegetarian, vegan, meat options, whatever, right? And so you get breakfast, you get lunch, but you don't get dinner. Now, what I figured is that that's actually enough. I didn't eat dinner. I was so full from breakfast and lunch and the snacks out of my hotel room that I never went out for dinner, right? So in a nutshell, you'll be fed well. Now, in terms of the first impressions, what happens when you get to the event? How's the onboarding experience and all of that? Registration was pretty smooth, I have to say. And when I asked the team about, a schedule, everybody in the team was pretty unison and they said, hey, we go with the flow and we don't really look at time and so on. And I mean, I get it, but if you've organized an event at least once in your life, or you've been to a few, you know that there is always a schedule. There's at least a start schedule and there's a rough break lunch schedule because the kitchen needs to plan, the staff needs to plan, volunteers need to be coordinated. So that left me in that unknown that I hinted at before, and which is something that Dr. Joe Dispenza, wants you to spend time in. Right? And I found my own way to be okay with that, but I wish I'd known before how packed the schedule was, right? Because that's something that doesn't get communicated. So here's how the schedule actually looked like. On day 0, if you'd like, you start at 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., and then it's about 2 to 3 hours of just introduction. And if you've been following Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, you will know most of those pieces of information. And then at the end of that, one of his staff members, in this case, Kelly, comes up and introduces kind of the week, the next day, and so on. And there is a Telegram group where you can also receive updates, which was really useful, so I recommend getting that. It took some people actually some time to get into that because you could notice over the days how it started off with just a couple hundred people, and then, towards the end, it was more like 1,800 people. So, and then when you start every day at 6 a.m. And there's even one day, which is the second to the last day, where you start at 4 a.m. Now, what happens? The event really goes from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and there's so much value being delivered, the price you pay is well worth it, right? So you will not get to do something else. And I met people that had skipped meditations and were I wanted to sleep in. Honestly, that's not what you're there for. You are there to change certain aspects in your life. Otherwise, please don't waste that money. Right? Because every single session, every single aspect that's being delivered is very, very intentional from the team, right? So you start off at 6 a.m., typically with a meditation and some information. And then around 8:30, 9 a.m. was the first breakfast break. Then you headed back to a session about an hour and a half later. Around noon, what you'd assume is lunchtime, you had a break. Then you'd lunch around 2, 3 p.m., then another break around 5:30 p.m. and then you'd end around 8 p.m.-ish, right? So you really go to your room to sleep. There's little time left for something else, and that's okay. That's okay. You do about 35 hours of meditation a week. You do at least 3 meditations daily, and most of those are an hour and a half long, sometimes 2 hours, some even a lot longer. Remember that one day I mentioned you started 4 a.m.? That meditation ended up being 5 hours 15 or 30, I don't know anymore. I lasted about 4 hours 15, and after that I was I'm gonna need to go somewhere, because as much as I want to control my body, water is happening, right? So be aware you are going to be fully present there. And if you plan on getting work done, if you schedule meetings and so on during that retreat, it's not going to happen. Unless if you still want to do that work and take those meetings, you are not going to get the entirety or the fullness of the retreat, right? So I would say if you go to this retreat, plan on being there fully and completely. You're going to meet wonderful people. You're going to have wonderful experiences. And the team is really there to support you. Now, the other cool thing about how the event is organized is the seating. Because you can imagine if you let 1,800 people choose where they'd sit, you'd have lines and lines of people 3 hours before it starts, already queuing just to be the first one, right? So when you register, you get to choose 1 out of 6 colors. And then this is your seating section. And then every day that color rotates in the room. And then within that seating section, you have free seating, right? So you do at least get a couple of times the opportunity to sit in the front if you like. You can queue in front of the door if you want an hour before or half an hour before, but honestly, there's not that much use in it. Yes, during the event, Dr. Joe Dispenza walks between the rows, especially the front rows. I would say something along like up to row 10 or so, which is really, really cool, right? If you get to experience him up close and if you're in his presence. And so that would be a reason why you might want to like be in front of the door early. So you get one of these spots if on that day your assigned seating section is in front of the stage. Now, the hotel in itself where we were, it's nice on the outside, but on the inside you could notice that the rooms are outdated, that certain aspects could have been a lot better. The staff was extraordinary, right? But for what the room cost was per night, it was a bit disappointing. So I would say stay at the hotel where the event takes place for the sole benefit that you have a lot less to walk, you have a lot less to carry, and you make your life a whole lot easier. But don't expect super duper high standards, right? So I would say pace yourself a little bit with that. In terms of types of meditations, you're actually gonna do 3 different types of meditations at that event. You're gonna do lying down, you're gonna do sitting and standing. Personally, I like sitting and standing the most because when I lie down, I tend to fall asleep. And the biggest benefit is really when you're just in that in-between awake and falling asleep state. And that's easiest for me to control when I'm either sitting or standing or walking. Now, I've had plenty of experience with the sitting meditation before, but that doesn't mean it disqualifies anybody who has never meditated. In fact, people who have never meditated before have shown to have the biggest effects at these events, right? And surprisingly, I fell in love with walking meditations. What is a walking meditation? I could not imagine that before either. A walking meditation is a mix of standing and walking. You stand with your eyes closed and you walk with your eyes open. And at the end, you lie down and he guides you with words, with music, and with that puts you in a certain state, right? So with that being said, walking meditation became my absolute favorite, and now I do it almost every day. If you cannot walk somewhere, what I figured is you can just do it at home and like literally walk where you're standing. You don't have to like get up and walk somewhere. So you can still do it, and sometimes it's even more fun. This is pretty much for anybody who's looking to have a measurable change in their life in a week. I've seen people get up from like wheelchairs. I've seen people release anxiety completely. I've seen people release depression. I've seen people release allergies. And the team of Dr. Joe Dispenza has actually done research on thousands of people. So the impact goes beyond on what I just mentioned. It really rewires your nervous system completely if you're ready, right? Like if you are ready to really immerse yourself and you're like, hey, I'm ready to leave certain aspects of myself in the past. I'm ready to close off with certain things. I'm ready to put myself in the unknown to better myself. Whatever that is, your relationship, money, life, work, whatever, then you will most likely find that there. So for me, for example, what I ended up releasing is I tend to not overeat anymore. I tend to not have sweet cravings anymore. I release stress much quicker. I'm much calmer, even in like stressful times. And even if there's like a lot of people around where it might be a little bit of like an elevated or nervous energy, I can still stay calm, right? So it really, really helped me in several areas of my life. It probably also helped me in certain areas that I'm not even aware yet of, right? And I met amazing people. I even picked up clients at the event. That was on like the day after the event ended. And overall, I would give it an 8 out of a 10. It would be definitely do it again. Actually, a 9 out of 10 would be fair. Let's do a 9 out of 10. It's probably one of the top 3 events I've attended in my life. So high recommend, would do it again, would definitely do it again, maybe even once a year. And I look forward to the next retreats. I look forward to keeping observing his work, but also be aware that the work that you are doing does not end on the last day of the retreat. The work continues well beyond whatever you learn. I still meditate more than an hour a day. And I grew up as somebody who couldn't sit still for like 30 seconds. So I know that meditation is for everybody, and you cannot tell me you cannot meditate. Like, that experience changed my life. If you told me probably like 2-3 years ago, you're gonna meditate more than 35 hours a week, I would have thought somebody is crazy. But there's so many benefits for every single one that I've become a big believer in this work. I already was before, but now I've experienced it even more so intensely. And so I would say a good probably 5K you're gonna spend on this event, like 2.5K ticket. The hotel is easily $200 a night plus flights. It's easily 5K, right? So it is an investment in yourself. I recommend seeing it as that. And I know they also have like scholarships available for people. And I know there's like other ways to get engaged as well, and to do the online courses if you feel like you're in a position you can't afford that right now. But if you're ready to do that week of change and then to continue that work without any pressure, nobody's going to charge you to do that work. It's for free. You can literally do the meditations for free afterwards, right? Then, oh my God, bless you, just do it.